you talk to me about all of the different prosecutions. These aren't prosecutions. These aren't indictments. These are Biden indictments. This isn't God coming down from high and indicting. You know what this means, what they did? If I won, I could say, oh, let's see, who's running against me? Some Democrats running. Oh, he's very popular, because I'm leading Biden in all the polls, just about all the polls, by some very, very big numbers. I could say, oh, I don't want to run against him. I call my attorney general. I say, will you do me a favor, indict him for something?
Yeah, be the norm.
But what they've done is they've made this like the norm. I can sit there and say, well, you know, I don't like this guy. This guy's beating me in the polls. Indict him.
This is the ex-leader of the free world and now world's greatest candidate for assisted living, speaking with the illegitimate love child of Paris Hilton and the Crypt Keeper, Megyn Kelly, once again taking the mask off, going full fascism with his threats of revenge, retribution, and retaliation against political opponents if he were to be reelected. Not only did the decrepit wannabe dictator basically come straight out and tell us what most of us already know, that the impeachment inquiry into Joe Biden is nothing more than a game being played by Republicans to distract us from the indictments that Donald Trump is facing, but also once again invokes the name of Vladimir Putin and the propaganda he's been spewing to bash on the country he supposedly loves.
Nobody officially said this, but I think had they not done it to me, and I'm very popular in the region, they like me and I like them, the Republican Party, perhaps you wouldn't have it being done to them. And this is going to happen with indictments too. They have fake indictments, and I think you're going to see that as time goes by. You're going to see Republicans, when they're in power, doing it. And it's a shame when that happens. I'm not in favor of that, but that's what's going to happen because that's human nature.
Would you do it if you became president again? Turn the indictment tables on the Dems?
Well, I would think about it differently. I would have never even thought of doing it, but now you certainly have to think about it differently. It doesn't mean I do it, because I think it's so bad for the country. Yesterday, President Putin of Russia used this as an example of what a rotten country we are, that they go after their political opponent. And other countries are doing that too. Other countries that don't like us are doing that. They're saying it's a bigger story. They love it because it makes us look very bad. It makes us look very bad, and our country's in trouble. Our country's laughed at. When President Putin of Russia uses an example of going after your political opponent, that's the greatest thing could ever happen to him. What they're doing to our country is so bad.
I mean, I'm just throwing this out there, but I'm pretty sure when a genocidal dictator with visions of reestablishing the USSR tells you that you're doing something wrong, I think you might want to take that as you're doing something right. Typically, if the enemy is upset at something you're doing or wants you to change the tactics that you're using, you might want to stick to what you're doing because you're probably pulling the right strings. And here's the saggy sack of skin with just an absolutely pitiful attempt, lying through his dentures, trying to defend himself, still trying to get us to believe that he's allowed to take any document that he chooses out of the White House, and somehow that these documents are magically declassified the moment he lays his eyes on them. Now, just to be very clear, Megyn Kelly is absolutely no friend of ours, but similar to the Bret Baier interview, she does an okay job of pushing back against Donald Trump. I guess instead of setting the questions up on a tee, she more or less just lobs them in underhand.
They came in, they raided Mar-a-Lago, probably illegally, okay? And we'll find that out. They took documents that they weren't even allowed to do, but they took documents, they took everything.
They found documents with classified
and I would have
markings.
given it to them. You know what? We had a meeting. I said, what do you want? And instead of doing that, because they're doing this for political reasons, the reason they're doing this is for election interference.
But let me just say, I don't dispute that, frankly. But the question is simply, your lawyers signed a certification saying they had turned over everything that was responsive. Then when the FBI raided Mar-a-Lago, they found documents that were responsive that had not been produced, marked classified.
I don't know what the timing is. Again, I'd have to check
That's
the time.
it.
I don't know. I just don't know the timing. All I know is I'm allowed to have those documents.
But once you get a subpoena, you have to turn them over.
I know this. I don't even know that.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Because I have the right to have those documents. So I don't really know that. These are Democrat fascists that are there to interfere with an election. And frankly, you can't say that they obstructed when they create a fake crime.
Unfortunately, Megyn Kelly followed up her slight pushback with one of the most ridiculous North Korea-style statements I've ever heard.
You were pretty much universally liked or loved.
What did you say?
No.
Before you got into politics. I mean, you were known all over the world. You're a big celebrity. Everyone knew you and liked you. You weren't controversial.
You didn't think so? I thought I would.
I don't think you were that controversial. I mean, I'm from New York. In New York, everybody loved you.
I think Donald Trump is one of the most dangerous things in politics today.
I just don't see him being a very good president. I mean, you don't want him controlling nuclear weapons and all that stuff.
I don't know, man. I think he should just take his money and just live the rest of his life like secluded somewhere.
Where can I get one of them wigs to take home with me?
I said, I don't know nothing about him. I just know he's racist.
And we're not looking for an actor, we're looking for a leader.
It's a two-face, you know? I mean, look at the people that build his buildings. I say 99.5% of them are all immigrants.
When his hair flaps like a bird.
I can't see him sitting with Putin at a table.
I think it's a tragic development for the United States that he is in any way accepted as part of the political mainstream.
He's a piece of shit.
Oh yeah, seems like they just love him there. Here he is being asked about the very real and possible prison time that he's facing, actually saying that his great attitude and poll numbers are somehow going to get him through it.
This is very scary for you because you're facing left-wing judges, you're facing some likely left-wing juries, at least 3 out of the 4.
Yeah.
There is a realistic chance you could go to prison. Can you see that happening?
You know what? I have a great attitude. It doesn't affect me at all because I'm fighting for the country. I'm fighting for the people. I'll tell you what, the best poll numbers that anyone's ever seen. I mean, these poll numbers are so good, and it makes me feel good.
Well then, hopefully whatever prison you land in lets you watch CNN so you can see the poll numbers and you can become the happiest guy on cell block C. And here's the sweaty orange lump of lies receiving the inevitable pushback from the right about the fact that he never fired Dr. Fauci during COVID. And not only did he not fire him, but he pretends to not know how Dr. Fauci received the presidential commendation. Like they were handing him out like visitor passes. I'm sure he just picked one up off the table on the way out and somehow forged the president's signature on it, because it's a presidential commendation that needs to be signed by the president.
You've been saying that the reason you didn't fire Anthony Fauci was because he'd been there for a long time, that you would have taken heat, that it would have created a firestorm, quoting your words. Then for the first time in May...
No, I also said I didn't listen to him too much.
I'm getting there. But then in May, you started saying, well, he's a civil servant, so I couldn't technically. The truth is, though, not only did you not fire Fauci, who is loathed by many, millions of Republicans in particular, but also some Democrats.
By the way.
You made him a star. You made him a star. This is the criticism of you, that you made him the face of the White House coronavirus task
You think so?
force, that he was out at every presser, that he was running herd for the administration on COVID, and that you actually gave him a presidential commendation before he left office. Wouldn't you like a do-over on that?
I don't know who gave him the commendation. I really don't know who gave him the commendation.
Presidential commendation. One went out to Mark
Somebody
Milley, too.
probably handed him a commendation.
Yeah, because that's how it works, right? Maybe he just spotted a presidential commendation lying on the floor. You know what? Maybe he popped into the gift shop on his way out and just bought one there. I think we might have footage of it.
Are you trying to steal that? It's $35.
For this?
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Hey, I don't make the prices.
Look, when this came in, nobody knew what the hell it was. It sounded like an ancient, pandemic. You thought that was from 200 years ago or from 1917. We never thought you'd have a pandemic. Nobody had any idea.
We literally left this White House a pandemic playbook that would have shown them how to respond before the virus reached our shores. They probably used it to, prop up a wobbly table somewhere.
We got word that bad things were happening in China right around the Wuhan clinic. And I was the one that said it was in the Wuhan clinic. Mm-hmm. And, I stuck with it, and it was absolutely. It came out of the Wuhan clinic. But you take a look, and what we did was, this was brand new. Nobody knew what the hell it was. There's dust. Somebody said there's dust coming in from China.
Dust? Really? Well, I'm surprised before you had us inject bleach, you didn't have us just go out with our garden hoses and spray in the air to see if we could help that dust settle. Wow. Dust.
And it's killing people in Italy, and it's killing people in France, and it's going to kill people here. And by the way, I shut it down to China. That was a big move. I saved thousands, hundreds of thousands of lives by doing it. But honestly, I don't blame a lot of people because nobody knew what it was. Now we do understand it somewhat. Nobody really understands it even now fully. but nobody knew what COVID was, and it wasn't even a name. I called it the China virus. I still do. I call it the China virus. It came out of China. You know, they call it COVID and COVID-19.
And finally, here's the deranged lunatic being asked about Operation Warp Speed, just tying himself in an absolute knot, trying to on one hand tout the accomplishments of the vaccine, while on the other hand saying he's not proud of it. He's also still trying to get people to believe that he has Democrats calling him left and right, telling him how he saved 100 million lives worldwide.
No mandates, no anything. I didn't demand anybody take it. But I have people on the other side, not my side, although probably there's some on my side too. They said, you saved 100 million people because I got it done in 9 months as opposed to 5 years to 12 years. A lot of people
You're proud of it.
No, I'm not proud of it. I'm saying what Democrats think. There are Democrats that say, why aren't you talking about that? It's one of the, they really believe strongly. One said, you saved, and this is very smart people, they said, you saved 100 million people worldwide. In 1917, you know, it could have been as much as 100 million. It ended the First World War because all the soldiers were dying of this horrible disease of 1917. You know, it actually ended the First World War. The soldiers were dying. They was on the lines, they're fighting, and they're dying of this horrible disease.
For the love of God, can somebody, anybody in Donald Trump's camp, please tell the man that it was the Spanish flu of 1918, not 1917? Just like World War I ended in 1918, not 1917? Jesus Christ. I swear, with every interview this guy does, it just becomes more and more apparent how out of touch with the reality he is, how maniacal he is, how much he wants to be a dictator, how much he's just willing to take power back so he can just throw everything that this country was built on in the trash. But as always, we got to continue to stick together, continue to call this shit out. The best way to stay together is to stay right here at the MeidasTouch Network. Please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. It's free. If you like what you're seeing, leave a comment. Tell them Boston Brian sent you. You can also visit my Patreon at patreon.com/BostonBrian. You can also visit the MeidasTouch Patreon at patreon.com/MeidasTouch. You can also visit MeidasTouch.com for all things political, all things MeidasTouch related. Till the next time, keep kicking ass, keep calling it out. Let's go.
Hey Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram at MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.